Hello, it's your friendly neighborhood host, JT Wheatley, back again for another episode of the History of Comic Books podcast. This time, the conclusion of the life of Charles Schulz. On August 7th, 1973, the divorce proceedings were heard by the Honorable Lincoln F. Mahan between Charles and his wife Joyce, and Charles not contested. Joyce married Ed Doherty on April 8th, the following day, at the Kenwood Community Church, with their kids not invited. September 22nd, 1973, Charles met his Jean at his new home in Santa Rosa. He 50 and she 34. He honestly felt that they were a good match because neither fit in. When their marriage ended, Charles avoided Joyce afterwards, and while she was awarded custody of the kids, all but Meredith would choose to live with him. In Peanuts, Lucy was diminished as a character, with many critics noticed that she could become milder in tone. In fact, in the last football gag strip in 1999, it was Lucy who had the gag taken from her when she told another friend to do it to Charlie Brown, but when Lucy asked if he did it, the friend replies, "You'll never know," to her anguish. On October 24th, Sally made friends with the school building, which came to represent Ginny in the strip, who in real life had made Charlie more outdoorsy. Ginny would travel the world, though rarely with Charles, who was unofficially diagnosed with agoraphobia, or the fear of outdoors, despite his wife's efforts. He did join her on Oregon's Rogue River in July of 1975 as part of research of the Peanuts' third feature-length film, Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, joined by Lee Mendelsohn and 16 other friends. His son Craig also became a licensed pilot and would personally fly his dad around. Interestingly enough, Charles Schulz once threatened to quit Peanuts back in 1977, and when it looked like he was serious, United Features syndicate William C. Petit planned to have Alfred J. Patisco take over. However, Schulz eventually settled on a new contract that pleased him, and by 1980 it was settled that he was truly in charge of Peanuts and no one would follow him upon his death, as per his wishes. By 1983, his work was in 2,000 papers and even had a retrospective in the Louvre. Ironically, with his success at age 70, he finally felt adored by women. Schulz also got to enjoy his first grandchild when Meredith gave birth to Dina Marie Fredrickson on September 1st, 1974, naming her after Charles's beloved mother. Reportedly, he thanked Meredith with tears in his eyes for doing so. Later, his first grandson, Brian, was born on October 25th, 1981, by his son Craig and his wife Judy, while Amy delivered Stephanie Ann Johnson on October 16, 1983, to become the first of her 9 children. Schulz enjoyed being a grandfather and started to approve in strips. However, becoming a grandfather was a sure sign of aging, which he hated. On July 1st, 1981, Charles Schulz felt some chest pains, and when diagnosed, the doctors called for a quadruple bypass of his heart, which was something of 50 to 90% blockage in his arteries. Fearing surgery, he asked what his alternatives were, and his doctor informed him that he could live with it as long as he gave up golf, hockey, running, and anything else active he enjoyed doing. After thinking about it for a month, he had the surgery on September 2nd. During his recovery, he noticed he developed tremors in his drawing hand and feared for his career, but worked through it by drawing pictures on the hospital wall. By April 1985, Peanuts was on a full merchandising empire with toys, cartoons, and 40,000 productions of the You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown play. By 1989, that empire hit the billions with $1 billion in sales and with Schulz receiving 5 to 10% in royalties. He was ranked as one of the top paid entertainers in the world, next to Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson, Oprah Winfrey, Steven Spielberg, and Bill Cosby. Peanuts was second only to Disney in sales, and to this day, Snoopy and Mickey Mouse routinely trade places as the most recognizable cartoon character in the world. Note, he's even more recognizable than Charlie Brown at this point. By June of 1985, Snoopy was licensed to promote MetLife Insurance in a $30 million ad campaign with the slogan, "Get Met, it pays." With all this, Schultz's salary skyrocketed, going from $4 million a year in 1975 to $12 million in 1980 to a height of $62 million in 1989. That was settled back down between $26 to $40 million a year the following decade. Not bad considering his dad once bragged he would make $24,000 a year from Peanuts. Of course, Schulz continued to be embarrassed by his wealth, even joking, "Do you know anyone that owns 2 Zambonis?" This did attract a brief moment of danger when on May 8, 1988, 2 kidnappers broke into Schultz's house with the intention of taking Jean, but was thankfully scared off when his daughter Jill showed up in the driveway. Thankfully, no one was hurt in the incident. Peanuts was a worldwide phenomenon at this point, reaching 5% of the world's literate population, and the strip being translated in 12.5 languages. The Charlie Brown specials has been viewed 4.4 billion times. The success of Peanuts naturally saw other cartoonists flock to the field, hoping to have a sliver of Schultz's success. A notable one was Garfield by Jim Davis, who shared an editor with Schultz, Roberta Billy Miller, and his growing success would spark Schultz's latent competitiveness, especially when Snoopy was briefly ranked behind Garfield in recognizability in 1987. Another competitor, at least a friendly one, was Len Johnson, the creator of the family strip For Better or Worse. He would actually mentor the up-and-coming cartoonist in advising her against the endings, happy or otherwise, and objected when she thought of killing off the dog Farley. He also did a foreword for the Calvin and Hobbes collection for Bill Watterson, who called Charles Schulz the elder statesman of comic strips. One thing that continued in his old age was his love of golf, and Schulz was a scratch golfer throughout his age, shooting his age on a regular basis and even scoring his first hole-in-one at the age of 72. On October 1st, 1994, he returned to Minneapolis for a tribute to him, and on June 28, 1996, Charles Schulz was awarded a star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame, adjacent to Walt Disney, who once tried to hire him so many decades ago. With all these accolades, Schulz took his first break in 47 years, from Thanksgiving in 1997 lasting all the way to New Year's Day. To cover for him, the papers reran the strips from 1987 to 92. As he reflected on his life, Schulz would take his greatest accomplishment was making so much of what little talent he had. However, Schulz would have a stroke, and in the medical examination, it was soon discovered he had colon cancer, was given 1 to 2 years to live by his doctors. As a result of his cancer, he had another stroke. With his health failing, Schulz sent a letter to his readers explaining he would be retiring in January, taking the strip with him. On February 2nd, Senator John N. Feinstein of California sponsored Senate Bill S-2000 to give Schulz a gold medal for his lasting contribution to the artistic world. President Bill Clinton would sign the bill into law on June 20th, 2000 of that year. Gary Trudeau, the creator of the comic strip Doonesbury, said in a tribute, "My career is all his fault," with numerous other cartoonists proclaiming he set the standard for the entire industry, such as Calvin and Hobbes' Bill Watterson, who called Schulz the father of the modern comic strip. On January 3, 2000, Charles Schulz dictated his retirement strip with the wish that it would end with him, and on February 12, 2000, he died with his last strip appearing on February 13th, the following day. Peanuts and Charles Schulz linked even in death. Well, not exactly, as Peanuts continues to live on. Per his wishes, the strip is only in reruns of the ones he produced, though Boom Studios did produce a new comic book series with new material from various artists, though controversy over such a comic book being made against his wishes made it short-lived. Considering how autobiographical Peanuts was to Charles Schulz, it is understandable how no one else could take up his mantle. Currently, Peanuts is owned by DHX Media, with the Universal Lock picking up the syndication when United Features sold its share in 2010. On May 2004, Fantagraphics published the first in a 26-volume series of The Complete Peanuts, a collection of the entire strip, while on November 1st, 2015, a CGI movie, The Peanuts Movie, was released to modest success, grossing $246.2 million worldwide against a $99 million budget. The film received positive reviews, especially for its authenticity to the original strip and cartoons. Bill Melendez's archive voice was used for Snoopy and Woodstock's voices. All the while, the Charles Schulz estate continues to get the royalties. With in 2006, Forbes ranked Charles Schulz as the third highest earning deceased celebrity at $35 million the previous year. While in 2009, Todd Bonet, in his book Where Are They Buried? How Did They Die?, estimated that Schultz's lifetime earnings was $1.1 billion. For a man who once claimed you couldn't become a millionaire as a cartoonist, that was a level not even dreamed of. And that is the life of Charles Schulz, the creator of Peanuts comic strip, Charlie Brown, his dog Snoopy, and all his friends. From a simple son of a Minnesotan barber, he created an empire from a comic strip about a melancholy kid and his crazy dog, and remains the standard for all comic book strips to this day. Not just in success, but also in quality. Charles Schulz and his creation, Charlie Brown, may have been considered themselves losers, but in actuality, you couldn't be a bigger winner than those two. I would like to thank the chief source of these episodes being Schultz and Peanuts by David Michaels, an excellent biography on the legendary cartoonist that also features his Peanuts strip throughout, showing just how autobiographical Peanuts was to Charles Schulz. And he was probably right in that when he dies, the strip should die with him, as Schultz and Peanuts were essentially one and the same. It should be noted that this book has been criticized by the Schultz family for factual errors and interpretations, but it does remain insightful nonetheless. Pick it up wherever books are sold. And now it is May 9th, 2019, time for the favorite comic book of the week. Star Wars Age of Rebellion Boba Fett by Greg Pak and Mark Laming, which features a one-shot story about Boba Fett tracking down one of his bounties to ruthless proficiency like the great bounty hunter always does. Great writing by Greg Pak, who really keeps the story simple and straightforward, as Boba Fett is quite frankly a man of few words. In fact, he literally only says a line in the last two panels, while Mark Laming's art is crisp and nicely detailed, with beautiful work all around and with some great action, and quite frankly, the Boba Fett's never looked better. As a kid, I've loved Boba Fett. He's been my favorite Star Wars character of all time, and this is a great issue, and it shows that Marvel is doing some pretty good work overall with the Star Wars license. And with that, thanks for listening to this rambling biography of the late, great Charles Schulz. Next week, we'll get to another great of the comic book medium, Osamu Tezuka, the god of manga. Till then, go out and enjoy yourself a good comic book.